ចាំនេះផងដែរគឺនៅសួនវានៅគាត់ពេលវេលានៃការគូហើយគូបកកម្មគឺចាប់ពីម៉ោង2ដល់10ដល់ទៅដូច្នេះខ្ញុំសូមអញ្ជើញបងប្អូនដែលរស់នៅក្នុងប្រទេសជប៉ុនរួមទាំងសកម្មសន្និសិទរួមនឹងពលកម្មជាប្រទីទៅអញ្ជើញចូលបានជួយទៅរកបានទាំងអស់
So this rally will take place on June 1st, which is a Sunday, and it will be in Japan during the new Prime Minister of Cambodia visiting Japan. And I will show you another one, which is the detail of the rally. And as you can see, it's a mass protest in Japan organized by Cambodian Japanese or Cambodian living in Japan. And the purpose of doing that rally is against Hun Manet, dictatorial prime minister in Cambodia, who will be visiting Japan soon. That's what the rally said right there in English and in Japanese. And there's three more purposes that would be to ask the current government, Cambodian government, to release all of the political activists, and then give the permission to Mr. Sam Rainsy to get back into Cambodia. Another word for Mr. Sam Rainsy, who is self-exiled in France, to be able to go back to Cambodia and practice his politics again. And number three, they would want to take away all of the wealth of the Hun dynasty. That's what it say on number 3 right here. So they are asking people to join them on Sunday, June 1st, 2025 at 12 p.m. And the location will be at the Eno Garden, Gate Yushima in the capital city of Tokyo. Any comment on that, ladies?
Wow. Yeah. I guess Cambodian Japanese is the most appropriate group of people to hold this demonstration against the presence of the current Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet, because Nekru, I've seen on social media that there is a lot of support from the Japanese politician. A lot of support of the current Japanese Cambodian who live in Japan. And they are speaking against some of the political agenda that they disagree with the current Cambodian government as well. So host this demonstration. And I heard that there might be more demonstration in other countries like South Korea and things like that.
Well, this will be happening while the current Prime Minister of Cambodia, right here with an X on his face, will be visiting Japan during that period of time, which is the week of June 1st. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Do we know his purpose of visiting Japan on June 1st, Nekru?
I have no idea. I just got this flyers from His Excellency Saman yesterday, and that's why I didn't include it in my agenda, because I already made my agenda, but I think it's important to let people know because June 1st is next week.
Yes, in 2 weeks.
And this would be a great information for those who would like to join the rally. And this rally will be in person. It's not
It's not
virtual on
virtual.
Zoom. Yes, yes. Well, anyway, we have to move on. The next topic, as usual, it's about healthcare. And
Yes,
as you know, we have this healthcare on blood pressure, right?
that's correct, Nakru.
So
And
let's take a look
probably
first and then we can talk about it later.
Work. So hopefully this video helps you to understand how to read those numbers. When you get your blood pressure taken, we use a cup. We put it over your arm and it measures the blood pressure in your blood vessels. Where does
Nakru,
that
can
pressure
you
come from? Well, it comes from your heart.
set
Remember,
the
your heart
volume
is a
up a
muscle,
little
and
louder?
every time it squeezes, it exerts a pressure on the
I
blood
think
vessels
this is
within
the
your body.
loudest.
So when your heart
Okay.
squeezes, that's what we call a systolic blood pressure. That's the top number that you'll see. And that's the pressure inside your blood vessels when your heart is contracting. Now, when your heart relaxes, it drops down to a lower number, not zero, a lower number, and that is what we call diastolic. So the top number in your blood pressure is when your heart squeezes, that's the systolic, and when your heart relaxes, that's the diastolic. So those are where the two numbers come from. Now, a perfect blood pressure, or the average blood pressure of healthy people, is 120/80. Now, you have to remember that not everyone is the same. For example, if you are an avid athlete, you might have a lower than normal blood pressure, and that does not mean that you have an emergency. And if you're stressed or you just had an argument, blood pressure might come up a little bit, but that also is a normal physiologic response. But when your blood pressure starts to remain elevated, for example, that top number remains above 130 or that bottom number continues to remain above 80, then that is when you enter into the territory of having high blood pressure. And the reason why that's important to understand is because blood pressure is not something that you can feel. For the most part, blood pressure is silent, but your organs still feel it. Your brain, your heart, your kidneys are still feeling that elevated pressure, and over time, that can cause harm to your vital organs. There are a variety of factors that influence what our blood pressure looks like. I already talked about a few. For example, stress can increase your. When you get your blood pressure taken, we use a cup. We put it over your arm and it measures the blood pressure in your blood vessels. Where does that pressure come from? Well, it comes from your heart. Remember, your heart is a muscle, and every time it squeezes, it exerts a pressure on muscles within your body. So when your heart squeezes, that's what we call a systolic blood pressure. That's the top number that you'll see. And that's the pressure inside your blood vessels when your heart is contracting. Now, when your heart relaxes, it drops down to a lower number, not zero, a lower number, and that is what we call diastolic. So the top number in your blood pressure is when your heart squeezes, that's the systolic, and when your heart relaxes, that's the diastolic. So those are where the two numbers come from. Now, a perfect blood pressure, or the average blood pressure of healthy people, is 120/80. Now, you have to remember that not everyone is the same. For example, if you are an avid athlete, you might have a lower than normal blood pressure, and that does not mean that you have an emergency. And if you're stressed or you just had an argument, your blood pressure might come up a little bit, but that also is a normal physiologic response. But when your blood pressure starts to remain elevated, for example, that top number remains above 130 or that bottom number continues to remain above 80, then that is when you enter into the territory of having high blood pressure. And the reason why that's important to understand is because blood pressure is not something that you can feel. For the most part, blood pressure is silent, but your organs still feel it. Your brain, your heart, your kidneys are still feeling that elevated pressure, and over time, that can cause harm to your vital organs. There are a variety of factors that influence what our blood pressure looks like. I already talked about a few. For example, stress can increase your blood pressure, and chronic stress can lead to chronically elevated blood pressure. That's why it's so important to recognize stress as a risk factor for things like heart disease, strokes, and even dementia. And your diet can influence your blood pressure as well. For example, a diet heavy in saturated fats can lead to higher levels of cholesterol, and that can lead your blood vessels to getting smaller. And you can imagine when your blood vessel gets smaller, the pressure needed to push through it is higher. And so that can lead to elevated blood pressure, which again can damage your vital organs. And the reason why exercise is associated with lower blood pressure is because it strengthens your blood vessels, it makes them more elastic, so that when your heart squeezes, that pressure is evenly distributed throughout your body and your pressure doesn't come up. It's one of the reasons why a lack of exercise is associated with high blood pressure. But there are some where, despite a good diet, regular exercise, and great sleep, will still have elevated blood pressure, which is why it's vital that everyone check their blood pressure on a regular basis at least once a year. Hopefully that helps you to understand what those numbers mean and why they're important.
So now I understand why there's blood pressure. And the normal number would be 120/80. Ladies, also he mentioned that good exercise would also help to lower your blood pressure, but you still have to check your blood pressure regularly.
Yes. So I guess diet and also physical exercise and a level of stress and the environment in your life really affect how your blood pressure work.
Exactly.
And next, Negru,
And first,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm deeply honored to be in this space dedicated to honoring and recognizing the strength, resilience, and contributions of Indigenous women. The voices of Indigenous women have long since nurtured and empowered the lives of their communities. Women in our culture are holders of traditional knowledge in our homeland of Kampuchea-Krom in the Mekong Delta. For the Khmer people, we hold the history of women critical to our identity, so we dedicate our celebrations to the resilience and culture during International Women's Month. However, in being able to express our pride, our Khmer women are met with hostility and persecution. When our women and men honor our traditional roles of women, information on women's rights of our people face restrictions and reprisals. Under the constant threat of surveillance and under the pressure of governmental harassment, the Khmer peoples cannot wholeheartedly take part in the community engagement that empowers the indigenous identity. Ms. Din Thi Huyen, a human rights defender, used her voice during International Women's Day to advocate and teach other indigenous women about their inherent rights. Horrifically, she was tracked down and harassed, and currently she is sentenced to 2 years in prison. There has been no crime committed, which means that her voice as an indigenous woman has been penalized and labeled as criminal. The repression is not an isolated incident. It reflects a broader pattern of systemic marginalization rooted in the intersection of gender, ethnicity, and state control. Khmer women are the cultural bedrock in our communities, preserving language, passing on ancestral knowledge, and nurturing the identity. Yet they are received by the government as less than. We respectfully offer the following recommendations. We call on member states, including Vietnam, to immediately end the criminalization of Indigenous women defenders and ensure the right to peaceful assembly and cultural expression, including during International Women's Day. Being an Indigenous woman is not a crime. It must be cherished on the 30th anniversary of Beijing World Conference. 2, we urge Vietnam to release Khmer women activists, including those imprisoned for organizing peaceful events such as International Women's Day. And 3, we urge the UN and donors to allocate dedicated funding to support Khmer and other Indigenous women-led organizations that work on cultural survival, land, language rights, and climate resilience. Thank you.
I now call upon the representative for Khmer's Kampuchea-Krom Federation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm deeply honored to be in this space dedicated to honoring and recognizing the strength, resilience, and contributions of Indigenous.
I am so proud of Khmer men and women who are continuously fighting for their freedom, their right of staying in their own land. But the Vietnamese government is so daring. They continue to put pressure on them, to mistreating them, and keep saying that those people are the Vietnamese indigenous Vietnamese, but actually they're not Vietnamese, they're Cambodians, ladies.
That's right, Nakru. They live on the Cambodian land, which the Vietnamese had invaded and took over the 26 provinces that is now called Kampuchea Krom, which is uh, I'm glad to see the community of the Kampuchea Krom have a strong representation at the United Nations level and fight for their identity and right to live freely and justly in their own native lands, and to clarify and help the world understand that they are not the indigenous Vietnamese. They are Cambodian and living in their own land that had been taken by the Vietnamese 26 years ago.
Yes, and we have to give credit to KKF, Khmer Kampuchea Krom Federation, and His Excellency Sam An for sharing this post on their Facebook. And it was about on June 4th, 2025, will be the 76th anniversary of the loss of Kampuchea Krom territory. And because a France ceded the territory of Kampuchea Krom, known as Cochin, in Cambodian would be Ko Sang Sin, to King Bao Dai on June 4th, 1949. So by June 4th, 2025, it will be 76th anniversary of the loss of Kampuchea Krom. Mr. Hun Sen, the Cambodia former prime minister, has just returned in May 2025 from celebrating the 50th anniversary of Vietnam's liberation of Kampuchea Krom territory to unify it into a single country, meaning that they will put Kampuchea Krom into completely as a Vietnam's land, which has left the Kampuchea Krom under Vietnamese colonialism to this day and probably forever. So a war of words between representative of Vietnam and the Khmer Kampuchea Krom Federation at the United Nations Forum of Indigenous Issues, known as UNPFII, erupted over 2 consecutive days on April 19 all the way to April 20th in front of diplomats, UN officials, indigenous rights experts, and international human rights organizations from around the world. The war of words took place at the United Nations headquarters in New York, USA, as the Khmer Kampuchea Krom Federation attending the 24th General Assembly of the Forum and Indigenous Issue, which will be held on, or which already held on April 17 to 28. Vietnamese representative accused KKF people that they're using the platform of UNPFII convention to serve their political purposes and not for the Khmer Krom living in Khmer Krom's land on the southern area of Cambodia, which used to belong to Cambodia. And they also asked the UNPFII to stop KKF from bringing this issue to the convention in New York of USA. This news reported by Mr. Prichia Kuhn of Voice of Kampuchea Kraum's television. What do you think about that, ladies?
Yeah, the Vietnamese are very daring. They try to change the history of the Cambodian people and the Cambodian land in the lower south part of Vietnam, which is called Campuchia Kram or South Vietnam right now. And I'm hoping that the Campuchia Kram community will continue to fight for their identity and to reserve their history and their identity as Khmer Kram or as Khmer, however they want to see themselves fit. And I'm very saddened to see the former Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen to just hand over Kampuchea Kram and the 26 provinces that used to be Cambodia to Vietnam completely on May 2025. Very disappointed, and I do not want to use a very shameful and hurtful term on the previous Prime Minister Hun Sen.
Thank you. It's very well said. Anyway, we are pressured with time, so now we're getting to our next topic, which is about UN clause. So let's hear it a little bit, and then we'll translate it into English.
នៅពេលដែលរដ្ឋទាំងឡាយមិនយល់ស្របចំពោះចំណុចដែលជាទីតាំងខ្សែបន្ទាត់ព្រំដែនរបស់ខ្លួននៅពេលដែលរដ្ឋទាំងឡាយតវ៉ាអំពីដែនកោះឬដែនសមុទ្រនៅពេលដែលរដ្ឋមួយចាត់ទុកថារដ្ឋមួយទៀតបានរំលោភលើសន្ធិសញ្ញាមួយឬ
This information was pulled out of the Voice of Democratic and His Excellency Som An's Facebook account on May 12, 2025. And this is detailing the UN clause and what UN clause mean. Basically, UN clause ratification is the process by which a country formally agrees to join and abide by an international treaty. Ratification of UN clause is the act of Parliament ratifying the law of the sea and is the process by which a country formally agrees to join and abide by UN clause in order to benefit from maritime rights and to resolve territorial and island disputes with neighboring countries. The United Nations Conventions on the Law of the Sea, also known as UN clause, is an international treaty adopted in 1982 and entered into force in 1994. It sets out the rights and obligations of countries in the use of the sea, including the limitation of maritime boundaries, economic rights, protections of the marine environment, and the solution of maritime disputes.